Hello there, welcome to twice to reading for next week, and I'm going to do a reading for the week ahead, which seems to be quite eventful and astrologically speaking. And I also pulled two cards for the new moon in Gemini happening.
What time is love? What time is love? What time is love? What time is love?
So I'm going to begin with the sign of Aries, two cards for the week and two cards for the new moon in Gemini. And later when I'm done, if there are enough people or anyone interested, and if I'm not extremely tired, I can try and check out the chat, and I can try answering a couple of questions. I'm not sure if anyone is watching right now. Actually, maybe nobody is, but there could be a couple of people showing up, as it always is the case. But it's Friday evening also, so people go out on Friday evenings usually, at least here where I am. But Friday, you know, is a day when people are relaxing and going out. It's very rainy here where I live, very bad weather, no summer, no heat almost whatsoever. So I'm going to start with the sign of Aries. Two cards for the week and two cards for the new moon. Okay, so the first two cards that show up are for the week ahead, and your card is King of Cups, and this could represent a male in your life, could be a water sign that is very important to you. And the second card is the Hermit, which is a card of withdrawal, of inner search, and sometimes it can also represent solitude actually. So maybe during this week there's a certain male in your life that is a bit lonely or looking for solitude, and there could also be some type of discussions that you might have with your shrink, if you have any, with your psychologist. You might also look within and check with your feelings, how you feel generally speaking about different situations. Excuse me a little bit, my cat is trying to open a door. I'm so sorry, I'm so sick and tired. Every time I'm trying to do a reading, my cats begin to make noises and my dogs begin to make noises. It's like they want to, they are all artists, wanna be. So this week is very much about looking for inner guidance. On the other hand, this king, I see it as the master of social situations, and therefore you might actually realize that you have to grow from within, so that you can find yourself, in a sense, so that you can deal better with other people's comments, with negative social situations that might become difficult sometimes to handle, or that can sometimes evoke very strong emotions, or and so on. So it's your inner psychology that you're looking for insight you could look for insight within. But as I said, this person can be somebody that is guiding you, somebody that is a shrink, is a psychologist. You could also read a book, of course, about psychology. And when it comes to the new moon in Gemini, this new moon is a little bit difficult. There's a square to Neptune and a couple of other small aspects that can become a little bit difficult when there are these small aspects, because usually the circumstances are not the best. So this new moon is happening June 13th on Wednesday, and it is squaring Neptune, and there are semi-squares to Venus, and Venus is in Cancer and to Uranus in Taurus, and therefore there's a little bit of confusion, misunderstandings could be the case with this new moon. And your cards are the King of Wands is the first card. I'm dropping everything. The first card is the King of Wands, and the second one is the Three of Swords, and therefore there could be some kind of separation actually taking place. Somebody might hurt your feelings. The third house is the house of communication and interaction, neighbors, brothers, sisters, and therefore there could be some type of conflict, some type of problem with a fire sign. Some of you have problems in love life. Actually, this male can represent an important man in your life. This man can also represent a boss actually, or somebody that is usually in charge. And maybe this person hurts your feelings. Maybe this person says something to you that hurts your feelings. Otherwise, usually the Three of Swords shows up either when we are hurt emotionally, or when there's a breakup, a separation, a relationship is ending, and in very, very rare cases, problems with the heart, physical problems, but it's extremely rare. It has never happened to me, you know, that this card has ever showed up to represent heart disease or things like that. I'm just saying, I know that this is how some readers interpret this card. And I'm going to check out a card from the Oracle de la Triade as well, just to see what they are saying about the general advice, or what this week is about. Just one card. Okay, so your card is isolation, and therefore somebody is lonely. You might feel lonely. There could be blockages otherwise and delays, and maybe for some of you, you might feel like you are isolated by circumstances or blocked by circumstances. Others might feel like you are living in a cage, or that you are kind of not able to move forward in any direction during this week. But I believe that next week again, this new moon is a little bit problematic, and all these energies happening next week. But next week again, things might open up a little bit, and you feel like you are moving forward a little bit more, and there are maybe a couple of nicer aspects, but I feel the same. I feel a little bit stuck. I'm not Aries anything, but still, this is a time maybe for reflection. This is a time to stand still and accept maybe situations arising. They are not your own doing, there are circumstances and so on. Okay, so now the cat is coughing. Oh my god. What a mess. So I'm going to move on to Taurus now for 2 cards for generally for next week, and 2 cards for the new moon in Gemini. Okay, so your cards, generally speaking, for next week, you have the 7 of Wands as the first card, and the second card is the 9 of Swords, and therefore with the 7 of Wands card, it looks like you are trying alone to defeat other people or your own circumstances, your situations. Some of you might feel like you are in self-defense, you have to defend yourself. Others are trying to fix things on their own. There's a lot of you know, kind of struggles that you can only do yourself. It could be so that you have your own business, or that you have a goal in mind, and the only person you can trust, that you can rely on, is yourself. And some of you might even stand out in some sense, because you might speak in front of an audience, or for some other reasons you might perform. That's you know, so in a sense you are very courageous and you are very strong. You don't give up. You defend yourself if necessary. Otherwise you are doing a lot on your own and you are successful. The downside of the whole thing is the 9 of Swords, and this could mean that somebody around you or you yourself have trouble sleeping, or you don't get enough sleep, and there could be an issue with a little bit of depression. Maybe it's not cool to struggle on your own. Maybe you as an earth sign don't feel like you want to do that. That's more the fire sign attitude. Wands are fire, and so I don't know, maybe it will make sense to you, or it makes sense to you. And the next 2 cards for Taurus are 2 cards for the new moon in Gemini, which is your 2nd house of income, and there's a square to Neptune in your 11th house in Pisces, and a semi-square to Venus and 1 to Uranus. And your cards are the Hanged Man, and the Hanged Man is about waiting. It's about being used or abused. And the next card is the Chariot, and the Chariot is about finding a way to move forward, being courageous. This is the card of war. It's a card of using your emotions or your emotional state to fuel motivation, and thanks to this energy of the Chariot you move forward. And so whatever has been stagnating in your life, this new moon might have a positive effect on you, because you feel like enough is enough. I have been waiting enough, I have suffered enough, now it's time to do something about it, and you will be victorious. Some of you might travel somewhere because of this new moon. Some of you might even buy a car or a vehicle, and so on. Otherwise, you are courageous. Some of you might think about taking revenge if you feel that you have been used or abused. It's like, I'm going to show you what I'm made of. Again, enough is enough. You will never do this to me again. And some of you are just reaching goals of all kinds, maybe even financial goals, because emotionally you are ready to fight or to struggle to gain more money or whatever it might be, because your emotions, your strong emotions, fuels your motivation. So this is a card of movement, of course, as opposed to the stagnation or waiting for a new insight or a new perspective in the Hanged Man. This is a card of revenge. This is a card of war. This is a card of motivation that comes from emotions, you know, like enough is enough, you know, or being ready, waiting until the right moment. Maybe that's what this is about. So you might wait until you are ready. Let's check also out a card from the Oracle de la Triade. And we'll see what this week is also about, or a little bit of advice maybe. I don't want to forget all about the Oracle de la Triade cards. Your card is protection, so you are safe during this week. Nothing bad is going to happen to you. There won't be any bad consequences or bad people or bad energies coming to attack you, or nothing bad will happen in your area. You won't lose your money or your work, or you're not in physical danger or things like that. So in general, this card shows you that there's almost or absolutely nothing to really worry about. You are protected. There is human protection and there is spiritual protection, and of course protection might also mean that you are in self-defense. You are guarding off, and this might also mean maybe defense. You know, war is the only way towards defense. Who knows? Maybe it makes sense to you, or it will. And I'm going to move on to the next sign, the sign of Gemini. Let's check it out, because for Gemini it's your personal new moon. Two cards for the week in general, two cards for the new moon in Gemini and what it brings you. Gemini, money, money, money is all you. You seem to have the last weeks or the last readings for Gemini. There is always money showing up. Okay, so the week in general, you have the money card, the Ten of Pentacles, which means that some money are coming in, you make money and so on. So this week is about material abundance, more or less. And then the next card is the Five of Cups, which can mean guilt or disappointment, and there's a need to let go. And maybe it comes separately, you know, from the Ten of Pentacles. There could be a situation, of course, where there is some kind of financial loss, or you feel guilty regarding some money. Maybe you receive some money and then you feel guilty because you wanted to give something in return and you couldn't, or whatever it might be. So there could be some guilt, so you have to let go. Possibly if you didn't, if you make a loss, the same, you know. But the Five of Cups is usually, you know, big disappointment. So I don't know, maybe you are disappointed regarding money a little bit also, but there could be another type of disappointment. This could be two separate things happening in your life next week. So you could gain money and then you are disappointed regarding a relationship. Maybe there is a breakup, there is a little bit of betrayal, maybe somebody doesn't live up to your expectations, but you feel betrayed in a sense. Some of you might feel guilty. Maybe you feel that you are the cause to the problem, and because you have two cups here, it can mean that you should let go of those as well. You know, don't hold on to things, you know, don't cry over spilled milk, or don't hold on to things that keep you prisoner in the past, or in drama. We learn from situations and then we have to move on. And new moon in Gemini is about the Knight of Cups, and I see this card as a card of relationships, as the possibly only real love card in the tarot deck, because this is the card for this is the relationship builder. When this card shows up, we are very enthusiastic about somebody, about other people. We build up relationships with people, and it could be all kinds of relationships, friendships, as well as love relationships. Some of you might meet a new person. On the other hand, this could happen because of work. You have very different cards. You know, you have a cup card for this new moon, and then a pentacle card, you know, so the energies are a little bit strange in your case, and but so are the aspects next week, a little bit strange. And the new aspects of the new moon are a little bit strange. There's a square to Neptune in Pisces in your 10th house, and there is also a semi-square to Venus and one to Uranus, at least. Yeah, so the Eight of Pentacles could mean that you are trying to be perfect as well, that you are worrying about somebody. Maybe you meet somebody and then you are trying to live up to this person's expectations for some reason, and there is a bit of scattered energy. Maybe you are pulled in two directions, and maybe you meet somebody, but then the circumstances are not ideal for relationships, for new relationships, and you could feel like I have to get things done, I have to be perfect, you know. So I think that there is a little bit of just like the week in general. You have your money, but then there is also disappointment, you know. So I believe that for Gemini, these two cards have been better together, you know. Eight of Pentacles, lots of work, and then the Ten of Pentacles giving you the material rewards, and then these two cards have been good together. Instead, the Knight of Cups and then the Five of Cups, or a relationship that creates a little bit of disappointment. You really want this relationship to work out, but it doesn't really. But maybe things are getting mixed up with this new moon. And indeed, the advice card with the Oracle de la Triade, and also, you know, the overall energies of this week is soul, the card soul. So this is a card of letting go. So you really do need to let go. There are things happening that are stressing you out. There is a bit of guilt, of disappointment. Relationships you might meet somebody, but it's not the right time, not the right circumstance to start relationship, a friendship, or a love relationship with somebody, and you have to accept the situation. Maybe that person is in another relationship already, or you believe one thing and then it shows that it's not as you thought. Maybe there could be so many factors affecting relationships next week, and you need to see things from a broader perspective. You need to detach and to let go and move on, accept that things are not always perfect. And now I'm going to move on to the sign of Cancer for next week. I'm going to check out the chat a little bit to see if anyone watches and if anyone says anything. Wow, thank you, Maria Plum. For Cancer, thank you, Jane. So let's see. For Cancer, the week in general is about, you have as the first card the King of Cups and the Three of Swords. So there could be some type of social situation that hurts your feelings. Maybe somebody says something that you don't like, and because other people are present, you don't really know how to reply or what to do regarding the situation. And there could be problems, of course, with a male or with water sign. And generally speaking, the Three of Swords can be about hurt feelings. It can also be about separations. And so, and I see mostly the King of Cups as the master of social situations, and it implies always that next week you need to handle social situations that could be a little bit difficult for you. And the next two cards are for the new moon in Gemini, affecting your 12th house of secret, seclusion, things going on behind the scenes. And your cards are the Magician and the Six of Cups. And the Magician is about using one's willpower or power of intention to get what you want. And the Six of Cups is about the past and about finding happiness from the past. And maybe you kind of spend some time with somebody. Maybe you meet somebody from the past. Actually, this Magician could be a person from your past that you either remember. You could think about the good old times where in the past you are thinking about your achievements in the past, but they could inspire you now. Maybe you remember how you did how you did your manifestation work, so to speak, in the past, and you feel empowered by those memories, and it also brings happiness in your life. It brings up memories of how good you had it, and maybe there was a certain very charismatic man in your past that you see again. Maybe this guy shows up in your life again, and you really enjoy spending time with this guy. And you could also actually think about this guy in the past. So otherwise, I don't know, I see mostly the Six of Cups is mostly in my mind about happy memories from the past, and feeling happy rather because of these memories than the circumstances around. So in a sense, it's a card of escapism, where you can't handle what's happening right now, but you can look back and feel happy because you remember all those happy moments that could have involved a certain very charismatic, very strong-willed man, maybe somebody that even helped you in some sense, or defended you, or was there for you. And your general advice, or this is also a card for what's happening in general during this week, like an overall card. And you have brother, and brother is about brothers, sisters, it's about loyalty. So this week is about friends and same-sex relationships, and siblings, and brothers and sisters, and family. So whatever is happening is everything happening is happening within the family mostly. And you could find yourself in a situation where you can draw upon past wisdom to handle current problems. Let's go move on to the sign of Leo. Let's see. So let's check out Leo now. Your cards are the Queen of Cups and the Three of Swords. So Aries, Cancer, Leo all had this card showing up. So definitely next week there's a risk of being hurt emotionally, and breakups could take place. I believe that there is a square between Venus in Leo and Uranus in Taurus, so maybe that's why. and there could be some problems in love life for some of you, and eventually problems in friendships, because the Queen of Cups can be a woman in love. She can also be a nice woman, a good friend, a loyal friend. And then with the Three of Swords, there could be hurt feelings and problems in this relationship. So for some of you it's a love relationship, for others it's a friendship with a certain female that is not going well. There could be a separation or at least some insult. And for the new moon in Gemini happening in your 11th house of groups and friendships, you have the Judgment card and the Four of Swords. And therefore I believe that this new moon is like you realize that whatever is happening around this new moon, maybe you meet some new people, you have some new experience with people, it's meant to teach you something. And it's like you see things from a whole new light. It could be so that you are developing as a person. In a sense, there's a shift within you happening. It's like you are resurrected, born again, in a sense, you know, like in the final judgment card. So you also have the Four of Swords, meaning that again you might need sleep. You had this card, I believe, last week as well. So you do need more rest in your life. You don't sleep enough, and then you develop through this new moon, because there are some experiences, and maybe it has to do, you know, with what happens in your social life, in your friendships, in your love life. And maybe you realize that I don't have to take this any longer, and you develop past this feeling of hurt or the drama that can create a breakup in a relationship. But otherwise it's also good to get enough rest, because you might not if you don't sleep enough, or if you are constantly tired, there's a possibility that you don't always react properly either, or that you overreact emotionally to different kinds of things. And let's check out also a card from the Oracle de la Triade for Leo. Okay, so your card is misfortune, unfortunately. And this could mean that there is a risk of either you being sick, or there's a family member or somebody around you that is in pain or depressed. Some of you might have problems with depression. Let's check out one more card. So you have the card Root there. So some of you at the base of your belief system, you might actually have problems with depression. Maybe you are trying to cover it up in a sense. Otherwise a family member might be a little bit sick this next week, or there could be some problems. Root is usually people from the past or family. Otherwise it also represents woods and fields. So let's see, the next sign is Virgo. Check also always out the sun sign, ascendant or rising, and the moon sign. So I'm going to check out Virgo now. So for Virgo next week, you have the Queen of Cups and the King of Pentacles, and these two cards can represent you and your love interest, and it depends now on who's who there. Even if this is a Cups card, it can represent a woman in love or a very good friend, a nice female of any sign. And the King of Pentacles can represent a partner, usually somebody that is older. It can represent, of course, people that have power in society, and also people that or male individuals of an earth sign. So these are eventually people that you deal with. One of these people might be you, and there could be important things happening at work or regarding finances or regarding ownership and banks and authorities and so on. And for the new moon in Gemini, you have the Knight of Pentacles and the Nine of Swords, and the new moon in Gemini takes place in your 10th house of career, status, reputation, goal, accomplishment, and there's a possibility that you are trying so hard to achieve goals that you can't sleep or you are always tired, and it's not so that you cannot do it or that it takes longer time. The circumstances might be a little bit difficult with this new moon in Gemini, because there's a square to Neptune, a semi-square to Venus, one to Uranus, and all kinds of problems appear, and you might become a little bit too rigid, too meticulous, too perfectionist, and then you just get tired and depressed with the whole thing. And some of you are also trying too hard to prove yourself, to show that you are worthy, that you are not lying, that you know your thing, and so on. And it can create a little bit of despair and tiredness, and also it's important to sleep well. Some of you might have some health related problems, maybe insomnia, maybe a little bit of depression, but somebody might also, this person can also be somebody that you are trying to live up to his or her expectation in some sense, and you have to be okay with whom you are, and just relax, you know. Probably the worst has already happened, and you know, just let things happen. Let go of the need to control everything. And one card for Virgo, what you need to know regarding next week from the Oracle de la Triade. Your card is love, so somebody definitely loves you, and that's all you need to know. Maybe you think that somebody says something or does something because they don't love you, but that's exactly the opposite. And this card can also imply that you are loved no matter what. You don't have to do anything to deserve love, just because you are, just because you exist right there as you are in your circumstance and situation, you are lovable. And now I wish you a great week, and I'm going to check out the next sign, the sign of Libra, for next week. Okay, so for Libra, your cards are for the general influence of the week, what's happening generally speaking this week. You have the Fool and also the Four of Cups. And therefore, what I believe is happening during this week is that you indeed take a risk, take a chance, but you lose inspiration. There is something new that you want to do, but then you don't feel that inspired, or maybe things don't work out. There is nowhere to go, there is nowhere to explore. You know, maybe you feel like you had the wrong inspiration. I guess it happens sometimes that we feel very inspired. I want to do this, or I want to do that, but then you end up feeling bored with the whole idea, and you don't feel that it was such a good thing after all. And for the new moon in Gemini, you have the card the Devil and the Queen of Wands. And there could be some problems in a relationship with a fire sign, or with a female that is usually charismatic and a leader, a natural leader. Doesn't need to be a fire sign, but somebody that is really popular and so on. And maybe there is a problem in a relationship with this woman. She could have an evil side, of course, a shadow side. She could also be using her power to abuse others. She could make you feel bad. There could be jealousy problems in the relationship, or other kinds of problems, and therefore with this new moon in Gemini, which affects your 9th house, you have to get rid of the negative thinking that you might have acquired. Maybe you have a lot of angry thoughts, and maybe you have created this you have trained your mind basically to think all these negative things about somebody, and maybe it's good to look at the positive as well. Otherwise, maybe this female, because traditionally wands were people in the tarot that represented people that come from other countries and so on. And therefore, you know, your 9th house is also people from other countries. So this female could have another nationality than you have, and there could be some bitterness in this relationship, some jealousy, lots of negativity, or you feel like this person is abusing power, charm, and anything. And because of this black cat, this female might also be into magic or into the occult, and maybe there is some fear associated with it. And let's also check out what you need to know for next week from the Oracle de la Triade Libra. And of course, this Queen of Wands could also represent you. I forgot to say, and in some cases it does. And with the Devil there, it could mean that your enthusiasm for some reason is lower. So there is, with the Fool there, you have the Fool and also the Queen of Wands, which are positive cards. You are ready for a new adventure. You want to have fun, you are very enthusiastic, very motivated, and you feel like everything is going to work out fine, but then problems arise, you know. So that's also something to consider for next week. If things rapidly shift, you know, and you might lose interest, you might feel like the universe, the circumstances, other people are working against you. So let's check out also what you need to know about next week. Just one card, and you have the card Woman. So definitely there's a woman that plays a role in your life next week. Maybe she interferes in your life, maybe she creates hurdles, maybe there is another woman when it comes to love life, and that's why the devil shows up. Maybe there is some jealousy, maybe you feel abused by somebody, really betrayed, and it's very difficult for you to feel worthy to let go. And there could be other things connected to female, maybe hormones, female hormones, if it's true that they really play a role. There could be other things, you know, but definitely a female is, you need to know something about a female. Maybe a certain, you are wondering who is doing this or that, and it's a female. Maybe you know who this female is. Possibly it's the same blonde woman. Maybe she's a fire sign, otherwise she's kind of a leader, popular, quite funny. And I wish you anyway a good week ahead. And let's check out the next sign of Scorpio for next week, and the new moon in Gemini. And what you need to know about next week, Scorpio. Okay, so your cards for as the general influence of the week, you have the Five of Cups and the Queen of Wands, and therefore there could be some disappointment in a relationship with Queen of Wands. Otherwise, another interpretation is that there is indeed some disappointment during this week, but you manage to let go completely of guilt, of the hurt that a certain relationship created, and you feel very energetic again, because the Queen of Wands can represent you as well, and your attitude towards the world, even though you are maybe a water sign, or maybe you have fire as well. Maybe you have a fire, sun sign, rising, or moon sign, and this could represent you coming back into your own power, feeling radiating energy and vitality. And you don't have to have you know, any fire, sun sign, rising, or moon sign. It's just an attitude. We can be any card in the tarot deck in different of sign and so on. So we all have those moments when we feel very energetic, charismatic, motivated. We empower ourselves, but also manage to radiate that power towards others and empower others, and we shine, and then other people shine, or they enjoy the way we seem to shine and radiate. And that's what the Queen of Wands is about, and it's not just restricted to fire signs, of course. So if things are a bit negative in the beginning of the week, you will feel better. Otherwise, there could be some disappointment in a relationship with a Queen of Wands. and I pulled another card because the Queen of Wands showed up for Libra as well. One more card, and the card was the Chariot, and Chariot is about using the emotions to move forward in life, to achieve a goal. Sometimes this is a card of revenge as well, and it's about usually having those emotions like enough is enough, or and things like that. Any kind of emotion that fuels you into action, and it's a card of victory. So you can feel victorious in the end. You can take charge of a certain situation, and some of you might even travel somewhere. For the new moon in the sign of Gemini, which is your 8th house of inner transformation, it's the house of Scorpio. You have the cards, the 5 of Wands and the 7 of Wands, so there's a lot of fire energy, action, defense, and the 5 of Wands is usually about conflict, fights, and sometimes inner conflict and frustration, and this card is about defense. So some of you get into an argument with somebody and you have to be really strong, and you can defend yourself. You are very courageous. You can take whatever is said to you, but indeed you can get a little bit angry. You can become frustrated. There could be some inner conflict because why do these people say this to me? But then you are very courageous and you defend yourself, or it's like you have to stand alone. It could be because you are on your own, because you are trying to work hard on your own, achieve a goal. You can be a public speaker, let's say, and then you stand out there, and sometimes public speakers are attacked by questions, by opinions, or any kind of person that runs their own business, even especially I believe teachers when they have all these kids, naughty kids in the classroom and so on. So this new moon in Gemini can create a little bit of frustration, but also the opportunity to stand up for yourself, to defend yourself, and to realize that you have more strengths than you thought that you had, and that you can develop even more. So there is a lot of energy in your reading, lots of wands, lots of action. And what you need to know regarding this week is papyrus, and therefore some maybe it's different from Scorpio to Scorpio. Some of you are waiting for some paperwork, others are consider signing a contract, and papyrus shows up in this case to kind of inform you that it's going to happen. You are going to get those papers or that email, or you are going to sign that contract and so on. And papyrus is a card in general about work, but it's also about all kinds of written communication, all from emails to contracts, books, and so on. And now let's check out the sign of Sagittarius for next week. 2 cards for the week in general, 2 cards for the new moon in Gemini, and 1 card for the what you need to know from the Oracle de la Triade. Hi there, Sagittarius. So let's check out your cards. For the week in general, your cards are the Page of Cups and the Moon. So I also wanted to check out one more card, because these two cards I felt didn't give me enough information, and I pulled for you also the Seven of Cups. And therefore I believe that some of you have some problems in a relationship with a person that is a little bit younger than you are. Could be a younger brother or a sister, could be a child, or it could also be somebody else that is a little bit younger than you. But there is so much confusion regarding this person, and there are so many unanswered questions, and there are things that are unknown to you, and there is fear associated with all this confusion. And at the same time, there is a sensation that you are too naive to handle the situation, or maybe the other person is a little bit naive. I don't know, one of you. And I don't mean that you are naive in general, or that the other person is naive in general, but just in this particular situation, just because there is maybe lack of experience, or too many unknowns. And either way, in time you will find out the truth. But the important thing is that you do not chase after chimeras. Realize that it might all be in your head. It could be a great romance, it could be an opportunity that you believe is going to come soon, a fantasy that you are going to have a child with somebody, or you know, anything that you kind of have some. You have to keep it real. Don't jump to conclusions, don't make big assumptions. You know, it might be, this card might be a creative energy, but it's a very and it can be a card of daydreaming. But usually, especially with the Moon here and Page of Cups, you know, you have to be realistic, and to expect the worst. It's better to expect the worst in this situation than to expect the best. The new moon in Gemini will affect your 7th house of relationships, and your cards are the 5 of Cups, which could mean some kind of disappointment. And then the next card is the Ace of Swords, which is a good card, because you managed to take this disappointment and to think clearly, and you go through some kind of disappointment or loss or something like that. You manage to let go completely, and you use your reason, your willpower, your strengths of character to cut through the illusion of whatever is going on. And you know what, I know that from the moon also in the original or traditional tarot deck is a card of danger, hidden enemies. That's how I learned the interpretation for this book. Even but things are going to get revealed, because the light of the moon, is the reflection of the sun, and at some point the sun rises right after the night, and there's clarity and there's pure light. So the moon will eventually, it's telling you that you will find out the truth. But be careful, don't put yourself in any kind of danger because of the need to fall in love, the need of escapism of some sort, and so on, because things might not be what they appear to be, and deep down in your mind you might even know that if somebody is somewhat dangerous, or if a situation leads you in a bad place, and so on. So as I said, with this new moon in Gemini, in your 7th house of relationships, somebody might disappoint you, but then you manage to turn the situation around in your favor eventually. And what you need to know about this week is protection, and this means that you are safe. So you need to know that you are safe during this week. You have spiritual protection, and you might even have human protection, people around you, family, that can help you out. But nonetheless, it's not that bad to be a little bit careful. But usually I know that this is an indication that even if things look a little bit gloomy, there is no real danger, or not any danger that you cannot handle. So this new moon is also squaring Neptune, and it's not the best new moon to have for relationships. Even if you should start a new relationship or meet somebody around this time, the circumstances might be wrong. This person might be in a situation that is wrong for you, or things like that, you know. So something is not right, and you might also realize that I don't like this person really, or I dated this person once, but I want to get out of this relationship, and so on. This could also be the case, but there is such a strong pull towards the need of escapism and illusion, that it might be a little bit difficult to let go of the previous idea that you had, you know, like, I like this person, and then you have decided, and you don't want to let go of that belief, even if you don't like this person, let's say. So let's check out now Capricorn. I wish you, Sagittarius, a good week. Tell me what happened. So Capricorn, two cards for the weekend, general for Capricorn. And two cards for the new moon in Gemini for Capricorn next week. And what you need to know about next week, Capricorn. Okay, so Capricorn, you have much better cards than other signs. So your cards are Two of Swords and also Ace of Wands, and therefore this week is also about accepting what you cannot do, accepting situations as they are, and you are really good at this. If necessary, you close your emotions and even your ears and your eyes, because you don't want to see things that can affect you negatively, that can affect your plans, maybe in bad advice. If you see something, you don't want to argue with those people that are doing something that might not be right, that you would usually, or everyone would react or have some opinions about it. And then the Ace of Wands could mean that there's something new happening in your life. You might start a new project, you might move, you might start a new job even. And or some of you are simply focused very much on this new move in your life, be it new work, new project, or something like that, and you don't really want to know about other things. You are very focused. And the new moon in Gemini is affecting your 6th house of work and health, and your cards are Page of Cups and Ace of Cups. And it's very unusual, you know, for cups to show up for work. Usually it's not a good indication either, but it doesn't mean that it's bad. These are bad cards, or that you know, maybe you start new relationships, new cooperations because of work, maybe. But for some of you, there is something at work that is happening that touches you emotionally. I believe there is some emotional journey taking place for some of you, and some of you have somebody that is very young showing up maybe at the workplace, and this person is naive, a beginner, and it kind of affects you emotionally, maybe because you like this person, because you see your younger self, or you feel like a mother, or it can even touch you negatively because this person is too shy and it's difficult to reach out. This could also be the case. Otherwise, maybe it's maternity leave for some of you, or things like that. Work life could be affected by children, even love life, social life, or maybe you just have a good atmosphere. This Page of Cups can also represent you and how you are. Maybe you are younger in your social environment, you are a bit shy, and so on. And the Page of Cups can also show up for people, of course, that are shy, that are young, that are naive, and that are also bothered quickly by let's say strong words, taboos, and all kinds of things. And it can represent you or somebody else. And what you need to know about this week is elevation, and this means that things will improve during this week, and you will notice that whatever seemed bad is not that bad anymore. So the worst thing that has been bugging you maybe lately is maybe, let's say, bad finances. With elevation, it means that you make more money this week. Or if the atmosphere has been bad at work or at home, it's going to improve. So in general, elevation is about improvement. Things are getting better. Elevation is, of course, also about moving upward. Could mean it represents, let's say, staircases, mountains, and high places where you can ascend, and maybe even, you know, the ability to somehow transcend circumstances, transcend what you believe is possible, and so on. So the next sign is Aquarius. Let's check out 2 cards for next week in general, 2 cards for the new moon in Gemini, and 1 card as for what you need to know about next week. Nice. This is not so nice. Okay, so let's also check out what this hair. I have very thin hair, and that's why it's so unruly. Especially at 12 at night. Aquarius, what do you need to know next week? Okay, 1 card jumped. Let's check out 1 more. Okay, so next week in general is about relationships, it's about negotiations, it's about love, it's about friendship, it's about getting along with people, meeting new people, going to meetings, building relationships. So some of you are very lucky when it comes to love life. You might go dating, otherwise you just hang out with people, with friends of all kinds, and you improve your relationships in general. And it's a very social week. The new moon in Gemini takes place though in your 5th house of romance, fun, creativity, children, and your cards are not as positive. You have the Devil and the 4 of Pentacles, and the 4 of Pentacles is that's how I interpret it, as financial loss, bitterness, frustration, sometimes even jealousy. So when it comes to love life in general, creativity, you might feel like things are not really working out, I believe. So this new moon can create a disappointment in yourself, and you shouldn't feel like this because this new moon squares Neptune. So for some of you, you might lose some money. Maybe you buy something that is not good, you make an investment where you lose, or somebody takes your money, or things like that. So there could be some type of financial loss taking place for some of you because of a financial risk, and you feel horrible about this whole situation. And some of you are just bitter about social life, kids, love life, and but this new moon is very strange. It semi-squares both Uranus and Venus, and it squares also Neptune, the planet of disappointment, of illusion, of lies, in the sign of Pisces, which is your 2nd house of income. So naturally, there could even too much drink, too much alcohol could create some bad atmosphere, bad behavior, and thereafter you feel you hate yourself because you had too much to drink and said all the wrong things, let's say, and so on. And what you need to know, the card that jumped out is the 10 of number 10, success, that things will eventually go well, and that you will gain some money or get your money. So maybe if there is a financial complication or a financial loss, you can always return what you have bought, or you can renegotiate, you can go back to the seller, let's say, or whatever, and you will get your money back. And another card that showed up was mistake, and this doesn't mean that you will fail, it can mean sometimes, but in this case what you need to know, mistake, is that there is somewhere where you don't see things clearly, and that you don't see where you have made a mistake, in the sense that you might judge the wrong person, you might blame the wrong thing for what's happening. You are wrong in some sense, and you blame somebody, but this person had maybe nothing to do with it, or you blame a circumstance and so on. So you have to be careful a little bit here when you jump to conclusions regarding what happened. And I wish you a great week, and let's check out the sign of Pisces for next week. So let's check out two cards for the week in general for Pisces, and two cards for the new moon in Gemini, and one more card for what you need to know. So for the sign of Pisces, your cards are for this week the Two of Wands and also the Emperor. And to me this means that you are a little rebel. You don't want to follow, you don't like authority, you can piss authority off if you want to. You keep your distance from people that are too controlling or that impose their power on you. This card is mainly a card of power struggle, the way I see it. And you have two wands here, but you have this guy holding the globe in his hand, and the hand on one of these wands, and there is the other wand does nothing. There is nothing about the other one, and therefore it's about power. Who has the power in this reading, or in your life, or in your situation? And the Emperor, I see it as the force that is trying to restrict and regulate the energy of the Empress, which is all about creativity. And the Empress just creates and creates and creates, and the Emperor says stop, this is how the creation should happen, and these are the limits. And therefore the Emperor doesn't only represent authority and power, but also rules and regulations, and it can also represent obstacles in our lives, and you can find a way around these obstacles. And therefore, if you feel like there is a lot of power struggle in your life, and also obstacles and limits and regulations and so on, you have to depart from looking at these obstacles, and instead looking at the possibility. So instead of thinking these are the obstacles. I can't do anything about it. I have to give up. If you really want to succeed in some sense, you have to restructure the way you think by affirming that life is full of possibilities, not obstacles. There is always another possibility. And when it comes to the new moon in Gemini, it affects your 4th house of home and family, squaring Neptune in your own sign, and therefore you have the 2 of Swords and also the Ace of Swords, and basically you see things as they are, as clear as you can, because when there is a square to Neptune, there could be disappointment, but there could also, with this square, clarity could also come. On the other hand, you see the truth, but there is not much you can do about it, and you have to live with this truth and at the same time make peace with yourself, accept the situation, and even accept the unacceptable, I would say, with this 2 of Swords here, because you know the truth, but because of the circumstances and the planetary alignments and squares and so on, or whatever, this new moon is a time when things get a little bit messed up and tricky. You want to move forward with this Ace of Swords, but the 2 of Swords tells you it's not the time. You just have to accept things as they are. Things are turbulent. There is somebody creating obstacles in my life. There are people that are trying to control me. There are obstacles in my way, and I have to wait until there is there are better circumstances, or until the right time appears. And what you need to know about next week is meditation, and meditation is about teaching and learning, and it's about planning, and it's about universal love in general. Is the Om that opens up the frequencies, so to say, where we are all one, not only with each other but also with the universe and everything that exists. It opens up the channels of communication, but at the same time it's a card of wisdom. It's about learning from experience, it's about planning, it's about teaching and being taught and so on. So maybe you just have to realize, just accept the situation, learn from this experience for the next time, or study, or let other people teach you. Watch documentary or how-to tutorial or whatever it might be. Maybe you find some new ideas and so on. Otherwise, meditation is also about pre-planned things, and maybe something is planned or can be planned or has been planned. It doesn't happen, it happens for a reason, so to speak, for a pre-planned reason. It's no coincidence, and not necessarily in the spiritual sense. So this is everything I have for all signs, and 1 hour and a half have passed, and let's see If you have any question, I can try and answer if I see questions in the chat here. You are welcome, Maria Plum. I'm a little bit tired now. Okay, I don't see. Okay. Thank you. I will get some sleep actually now, and thank you for watching and being here, and all comments which are very nice. So bye bye, see you next time.